Greetings. I'm your host, Glen Alex, and this is The Glen Alex Show, the 2023 Positive Change Podcast Award winner in health and wellness and psychology. And The Glen Alex Show is everything health because I believe in total health. You're a whole and all of you matter. True health is much, much more than just diet and exercise. So I am on a mission to help you be joyful, connected, confident, and complete the life experience I call wealth, WELLTH, which is health plus other riches. And if more people were living in total health or even in pursuit of it, the world would be safe and loving for everyone. Because physically, mentally, emotionally, and spiritually balanced people do not intentionally harm self or others. So join us in making the world a better place. And stay tuned for this enlightening episode on journal therapy.
Welcome to the Glen Alex Show, where your health matters, set your mind, let it flow. Joyful, connected, confident, complete. Let Glen Alex help you back on your feet. The Glen Alex Show.
So please help me welcome my guest, Kathleen Adams. Kathleen Adams is a psychotherapist, best-selling author, and founder of the Center for Journal Therapy in Denver, Colorado. Her passion in life is teaching and teaching the healing art and science of journal writing to all who desire self-directed change. She's delighted to be with us today to share how writing a journal can move you toward healing, growth, and change in surprisingly easy and time-efficient ways. So Kathleen, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you, Glenn. It's a pleasure to be with you.
Oh, I'm really stoked about you being here and talking about journaling. As a clinical social worker, I think it's an amazing tool for, as you said, for growth and change. And I'm just excited for what we're about to get into. So can you just give us a brief overview of how you became a journal therapist?
Yes, I'm happy to do that. I started out as a journal writer when I was 10 years old, and I thought I was writing a journal because I knew I wanted to be a writer from a very early age. So fast forward 20 or 25 years, and having been a journal writer all that time, some friends asked me if I would teach a little class, and I said, oh, it's not hard, just get a notebook. And they said, well, it's hard for you, it's hard for us. So I put together a little class, taught it to them, and knew immediately that this was what I wanted to do professionally for the rest of my life, help people find themselves through journal writing. And that was 38 years ago. So it's worked out pretty well.
Wow, congratulations.
Thank you.
Congratulations. Now, how do you define journaling? How would you describe that to someone you're introducing journaling to?
I think what I usually describe journaling as the process of recording thoughts, feelings, desires, anticipations, problems, worries in a notebook or on a computer or in some sort of written form that helps with the idea that you can learn more about what stops you from having more of what you want and what is already in place that helps you get more of what you want. And this exploration personally or professionally, if you choose to use it about your career, can be a real turning point in how you become more self-reliant in your capacity to help yourself get your needs met and your desires.
Okay. So it sounds like journaling can be a best friend.
It can be a best friend. In my first book, Journal to the Self, there's a chapter called The Friend at the End of the Pen. And that is sort of how it goes. It becomes, I have so many people in my client practice and in my teaching practice who say, I never knew how much I know until I started writing it down. Um, this quote is attributed to several people, but I know it best from the novelist E.M. Forster, who said, "How do I know what I think until I see what I say?"
Okay. That's really interesting. And I like that because I work with adults who experience anxiety and depression,
Mhm.
and they get so caught up in what they think that they don't know what they know. They only
Exactly.
think that what they think is what they know.
Yes.
So you
Yes.
put down on
And,
paper.
and it, so there are lots and lots of ways that the journal allows us to literally read our own minds. We can express whatever it is that's on our mind. And when it's written in a way that, and I think we're going to talk about some of these methods, that is purposeful and intentional, and that doesn't have to be complicated. You can do it in 5 minutes. Um, there's a record that you can return to and see where you have been and where you are now, and if there is a difference between those things, or, and if so, if the difference is leading you in a positive direction or in a direction that will help you get more um, of your intentions and aspirations acted
Okay.
upon.
Okay. Okay. Now we will talk about different journaling methods. First, though, I want the audience to understand that this is really um, an authentic way to grow, learn, change, develop, etc. What does the top three benefits research says journaling provides?
Okay, the bulk of the research is done by a research psychologist, Dr. James Pennebaker, and he would say that the top three benefits are the capacity to tell a coherent, cohesive story that leads you to understanding about your own dynamics. He would also say that there is a great benefit in telling yourself the truth about problems that you're having. And he has a structured process that he goes through, which includes telling the story and then adding in details and telling the story. I call it the story behind the story, the things that are um, n- not necessarily in the habituated story, the story we always tell about a difficulty or problem, to get kind of, outside the boundaries of that and add in the details and the layers that you don't remember to think about. That's
Okay.
the second stage. The third stage is to look for meaning. Is this, what do I move toward or away from as a result of having this problem or this difficulty? And how has it impacted the life that I want to be living? And then the fourth part of it is the synthesis of, where do I go from here? Am I ready to release something, let go of it? Am I done with it? Am I ready to step into something new? And what are the possibilities that now exist if I were to, now that I understand a little bit more about my challenging story, and where it might go from here?
Okay.
He's replicated that study hundreds of times, and colleagues around the world have replicated it, many, many times over. So there's many hundreds of studies that follow this basic model for everything from diabetes management to depression to wound healing after surgery. There's so many applications. Cancer, fibromyalgia, infertility, you name it, they've done a study on it. And the results tend to be fairly consistent that people who write in this form do have better outcomes.
Okay, that's awesome. And you touched on it, though. I just want to bottom line it for the audience is that um, journal therapy can improve immune function, and that
Yes, that
does help
was
the physical healing process.
yes, that was one of the earliest findings was that people who wrote in this method, his early studies were with his college students and in psychology, and they did blood work before and after, before the 4-part intervention and after, and then again at 6 weeks and 6 months. And they found that immediately there was immune system response to the 4-part right, and that was activated for up to 6 weeks after the initial writing.
Wow.
Visits to the campus health center for stress-related illnesses at a 6-month follow-up demonstrated that the students who had written in the 4-part intervention had fewer visits to the campus health center for stress-related illnesses than their counterparts who wrote in the control group, which was to write about neutral topics.
Okay.
And that benefit of fewer stress-related illnesses lasted for up to 6 months, which seems like a really powerful outcome for just really 20 minutes, 15 to 20 minutes at a time over 4 days. That's an hour, hour and a half of writing,
Yes.
and you get some pretty massive benefit from it.
And not to mention, no side effects from medication,
That's true.
nor the
That's right.
expense.
Yes. Better quality sleep is one of the
Yes,
outcomes.
yes. Okay. Now, what are some of the methods you use in teaching, methods you teach for journaling?
Yes. My entire theoretical methodology is grounded in something that I discovered in those very first journal classes that I was teaching, which involved the use of different writing techniques. So in the initial class, I taught 21 different techniques to use in the journal, and a technique is something like the unsent letter. I think everyone is familiar with how to write a letter. Dear you, blah, 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 love me, or angrily yours, me, or whatever. And the unsent letter with the focus on the un part. And here's a little tip for unsent email letters. Address the email to yourself first before
Just
you
in
ever
case.
write anything down, just in case you hit send by mistake, you'll send it to yourself. But that is just kind of a fast write that can be an emotional blast of, I'm mad at you, I'm sad about you, I want you to stop doing something, whatever it is. The idea is that you can be just as socially inappropriate as you want
Mhm.
and say anything you want to that you would never actually, probably, hopefully, say to another, but it is contained in the privacy of your own journal or your own email system.
Mhm.
And there is a tremendous amount of release that can come simply from getting it off your mind and onto the page, and then not doing anything with it other than tucking it away or maybe shredding it or stomping on it or whatever you want to do the
Or
physical
burning
thing
it.
or burning it. Yeah.
I've written a
Yeah.
few unsent letters myself
Have you burned a few unsent letters? I thought maybe you had. Yeah,
too.
it's good.
Okay, so what tips do you have for someone new to journaling to just get started?
Yeah, I think the first tip is permission. Permission to let yourself approach this in whatever way you want. It is not necessary. I mean, there's no user's manual for writing a journal. I've written 14 books, and in their own way, they're each user's manual, but your own style is going to be your best predictor of success. So you don't have to do this for anybody but yourself. You don't have to do it in a particular way. Permission to write or not write doesn't have to be done every day. Permission to write by hand or on a computer, it doesn't make any difference in outcomes. Some studies that I have done show that. And after permission, I would include balance, because if you are using a journal um, for capturing the anger or frustration you feel about a particular life situation, or if you are grieving a loss, the journal can get heavy, and it might condition you to think that maybe I shouldn't write today because I'm in a pretty good mood and I don't want to bum myself out. But if you add a little balance to the journal, and one of the techniques that I teach is called captured moment, and it's about capturing a moment of beauty, of grace, of joy, of intimacy, and writing it from the senses in the first person, even if it happened yesterday, writing as if it were happening right now, and using all of the creative energy you can bring to it to make, kind of, this is the time to pull out the juicy verbs and the lavish adjectives and the extravagant language. A captured moment of beauty or of joy can add a lot of balance to the journal. And these are very small vignettes that are usually, I recommend 7 minutes. Just set your timer for 7 minutes, dive in and write as creatively as you can about, and if the creativity part scares you off, then just write in whatever way you want to. Tell the story of
Right.
this moment. But that gives you something to look back to that will brighten your mood almost immediately, and will help you remember that even in difficult times, nothing is forever, and you can also have um, some quality exchanges with yourself.
Okay. I love that. I really do. And I just want to speak for a moment to what you said about personalizing it. While there are guidelines and suggestions, there is no one way, no right way to do you, to express
Yep.
your to be you. I run into that a
Mhm.
lot professionally and personally with people trying to conform to some ideal that doesn't align with them. So thank you
Exactly.
for that out.
Yes. What I'm always telling my clients and students is one of my little axioms that I get, they quote back to me is no wrong, just right. WRITE.
I
No
like
wrong,
that.
just right.
Oh, I'm going to steal that.
Please do.
Is it stealing if I tell you ahead of time?
Well, we call it the great brain robbery, and we do it all the time in journal therapy. We constantly borrow from each other.
Okay, thank you. Thank you. That's awesome.
Of
Awesome.
course.
Now, even some clients who can intellectualize the benefit of journaling, they are still resistant to it. What would you say to that person?
I would say that resistance is perfectly fine. It's normal. It's a condition that if we can name it, we can have a relationship with it, and then we can start to work with it. So there's a couple of different ways. One is pragmatic, and one is a little bit more creative. The pragmatic one is don't well, the poet William Stafford used to write a poem every day, and he was known for this. And when people would talk with him, they would say, how can I write a poem every day too? And he would just gently smile and say, lower your standards. So the idea of lowering your standards is one that can carry over. The most basic, simple, structured, paced, contained journal technique I personally know is called sentence stems, and it's finishing a sentence. So for somebody who's got some resistance going on, you can start with a sentence stem like, what do I want right now? Well, it's actually a question. So you can start with questions too, but what I want right now is, or the most important thing to do right now is, or right now I'm feeling, and just finish the sentence. It literally can be one word.
Okay.
And if you want to make it more than one word, you can write a full sentence. I feel this way because. And if you want to really get radical, you can set your timer for 3 minutes and write for 3 whole minutes. When you can, Desmond Tutu, I think it was, that said, the way to eat an elephant is one bite at a time. And that's kind of what this is like. You can start with a word, you know, and then grow from there. And resistance really doesn't have, I mean, there's nowhere for resistance to put its head up, in a short, simple write. A unit of time that I use with a lot of my clients who either have some resistance or don't really, or who have a kind of a cognitive processing style. They're kind of rational people, data-based people. They like information. Is a 5-minute sprint. Set your timer for 5 minutes, write as fast as you comfortably can, and pick a topic and just go for it. And at the end of 5 minutes, stand back, read what you've written, and then participate in what I call the reflection write, which is reading back and then saying, as I read this, I notice, or as I read this, I'm surprised by, or I didn't realize,
Okay.
or I have an action plan to. There's a lot of different ways the reflection can go, but I am convinced that it not only makes concrete what you have just done, but it also gives you insight and a way to integrate and synthesize whatever happened, if in fact something happened. It doesn't always, but most of the time, you might be surprised. So resistance can be peeled away just a little bit at a time, and those are some of the shorter ways. The more creative way is to maybe, well, we talked about unsent letters already, to maybe write a letter to resistance and say, I know you're a part of my life and I don't want to kick you out, but I wonder if we could find a way to work together.
Okay.
What do you need? What do you need from me to help you feel more safe and, permissive?
Okay.
And then maybe unsent or maybe resistance will write a letter back to you and say, here's what I need. That can also be a dialogue, a written conversation where you write both parts. That's a little bit more complicated. So
Okay.
I like the letter back and forth.
Okay. Okay. Very good. Very good. Now, for individuals who are more verbal
Mhm.
and are less comfortable writing, I often suggest then they just do a verbal journal.
Yeah,
Record
that's good.
themselves. That
Yes,
has the same impact as writing.
I think so. I think so. I've worked with a lot of people who don't have physical capacity to write. They either
Okay.
have um, cognitive impairment that makes it difficult for them to write, or they may have arthritis. I work with older people
Okay.
who sometimes just don't have the mobility in their hands that they used to. And audio journals, talking into your voice memo, and you can even have that transcribed. You can run
Sure.
it through a transcription service and it will give you a written journal, even if you dictate it.
Okay. Okay. Awesome. Awesome. Now, as far as your work with individuals, you have your private clients and you also have students. What is the student program like? Is that online? Is that in
Yes,
person?
I have two fully, well, yeah, I have two fully online programs. One of them is my first book, Journal to the Self, has been in print for over 30 years now. I can't even believe it. And I it's based on the workshop that I started out with in 1985. And it's kind of the workshop written down. So I certified people to teach the same workshop that I started out with. That's called the
Okay.
instructor certification training. And then we have, and that's fully online. We also have a fully online text-based institute called the Therapeutic Writing Institute that prepares people to do to take courses of study and do practicums that prepare them to use journal writing as part of their career path. A lot of coaches and therapists take this, community facilitators, but that's a pretty deep dive, and it's an extensive. It takes about 3 years to get all the way through. So that's the long program, and the instructor training is the short program. But with my individual clients, I have kind of a standardized toolbox of techniques that, if they are willing to participate in the writing process with me, I share some papers and handouts with them. And then I customize the program based on who they are, what they want, and what their emotional and cognitive processing styles are. There
Okay.
are ways for therapists to really, kind of make a program that's going to meet the client where the client is at, which is what I always like to do rather than ask them to jump into my world. I want to
Right.
make myself accessible in their world.
Right. Okay. Okay. Awesome. Awesome. Well, this has been great. I
Mm.
love journaling. I love journal therapy. I love writing. So I'm absolutely going to share this with tell my clients, see, she said this. And I hope it catches on with people who are not currently journaling, because I do think it's that impactful. So in thinking of all you've shared and all you know about journal therapy, can you wrap this up in one nugget? What one takeaway do you want the audience to have?
I think I would go back to no wrong, just right. Give yourself permission to do what feels right for you and to not worry about what you're not doing, because it's more important to focus on the here and now in your
Okay.
journal.
Okay. Awesome. Awesome. Now, how can anyone reach out to you or contact you to join one of your courses?
Sure, sure. My website is journaltherapy.com, and my email address is kay@journaltherapy.com, k@journaltherapy.com. And if anyone would like a little sample taste of a class, I have a little online class that I'd like to offer your listeners. It can be reached. It's called J is for Journal, and it's kind of a fun, breezy startup on just different areas of writing that people are interested in, and
Okay.
how to get started. And it's got 68 writing prompts in about
Wow.
15 pages. Yeah,
Okay.
six
Okay.
modules, 7 modules. And the URL for that is bit.ly/KKAY journal, JOURNAL 2024, K journal 2024 with the prefix bit.ly, bit.ly/.
Okay.
And I also have that the online class is also available as a e-report if anybody prefers to
Oh,
read
okay.
rather than take classes.
Awesome. Awesome. Kay, this has been a pleasure.
Thank you,
It's been
Glenn. It's been a
Thank you so much for making time and for the work that you do.
oh,
I,
thank
I
you.
think understanding self is the beginning of health
Yes.
and and positive contribution to humanity. So thank you.
Mhm. Thank you. It's been a pleasure to be with you, and I wish happy inklings to all of your listeners.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you again for tuning in to this episode of The Glen Alex Show. We hope that you learn how journal therapy, writing, can enhance your overall health. So please like, subscribe, and share.
Refresh your spirit with a nourishing thought.
Please allow me to leave you with this nourishing thought. Author Julia Cameron said, "Writing is medicine. It is an appropriate antidote to injury. It is an appropriate companion for any difficult change." Quite simply, writing is therapy. I personally know the benefits of journaling from my childhood diary, from my dream journals, and from just putting my thoughts on paper. The positive effects of journaling on my mental and emotional well-being are profound. So if you want to better understand yourself, if you want relief from anxiety and depression, if you want to heal, then journal. And research has even shown that journaling improves immune function. And because of these powerful benefits, I highly recommend journaling to my clients, particularly those with high anxiety and depression, and those who have trouble sleeping. And I recommend journaling to you. To learn more about tools to improve your health, visit glenalex.com, order your copy of my 3-time award-winning book, Living in Total Health, read my blogs, and book your free session with me to identify tools to help you enhance your health. Then tune into the next episode of The Glen Alex Show. And until next time, be well.